We do that because you guys are well versed. You have hundreds of hours of video recordings and reading in that, but it's still each new video we put out, new people are watching it all the time. So to not leave anybody out, lose anybody, we'll do a little intro. And I'm Federal Postal Judge David Wynn Foucault Miller. And I'll let Russell introduce himself.
Yes, Russell J. Gould, and we have done a syntax grammar challenge on the Electoral College vote rules for all 50 states. So what we have done is we have taken the laws for the Electoral College vote process for the President of the United States of America, and we have syntaxed those, which we will get into, and recorded them with the elections commissions for all 50 states, as well as Guam, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. And we did that through this corporation claim number, RE 881-080-255 They're also on recording with the White House Press, the Council of Foreign Relations, Secretary of State's office as a letter of the rogatory as a foreign condition of the state, as well as the U.S. Secret Service. So.
And for the audience, Russell's 40 and I'm 65.
41 now.
41. Oh, you hadn't birthday, that's right.
Yeah, 41 now. Yeah.
I'm 65. Russell's got about 50,000 hours of background on this, and I've got 82,000 hours of background. And we also have a team that's probably put in another 250,000 hours that has worked with us over the last 35 years from different organizations, and we give them different job assignments that they may pour through 1,000 hours of work on in the course of a year to come up with 1 hour of hard copy. Because 3 + 3 = 6. There's only one correct answer, but in the world of infinity, you have the infinity of being wrong. We have a world that's been built on fraud. All 5,000 languages, 8,500 years. Worldwide has been modified, obstructed, manipulated. And so because of all these using an adverb, verb, world, adverb, adjective, pronoun, and pronoun, adverb, verb, they have completely bastardized all grammar on planet Earth, better known as Babylon. So the program that we did in April 6, 1988, it broke the mathematical interface on grammar. First thing I did was go to William Rehnquist at the United States Supreme Court and charge him with crimes against America. And him and I became friends. We locked ourselves into a room for a couple hours, and I syntaxed everything he could put on the table. And from there, he taught me the secrets of the judges. At the same time, I syntaxed it and put it into correct parse syntax grammar. And Russell came on board with me in 1996.
Yeah.
And I said, would you like to be Postmaster General of the world? He thought that was a little far-fetched because he was 20 years old 21 years old at the time. I said, well, it's going to take time to train. But he's been working with me. We lived together for many years, working 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. We have the Manly Hall, Secret of All Ages. It's a book that's 12 inches by 18 inches by 2 inches thick. And when syntaxed, putting in 2/3 of all the missing words, it's now a 6-inch thick book. And it's the only one like it on planet Earth, dealing with Masons and numerology, astrology, tarot, witchcraft. We broke all of it down. It's all nonsense. Put it all back together in quantum. So we know the secrets of how things happen around this planet.
We were blessed enough to get a chance to put the presentation on for 4 days at the Vatican. We have contracts with the Vatican for banking. They were very impressed. When we came out of the post office, they had an 85-year-old nun there, and she knew who we were on site. Hey, you guys can go anywhere you want. She took us around, and we started.
Yeah, personally took us around everywhere. We got to go on the gold vaults.
Oh yeah.
As we syntaxed Latin, Greek, and Arabic at the Vatican, we picked up more and more nuns, bishops, and cardinals who followed us around, and we could read everything and put all the missing words in now time. And from there, they created a seminar in Austin, Texas, where they teach this technology now. And after we wrote the Lord's Prayer was written and then posted up on the website, just like the two words, our Father. Well, the word our is an adverb, makes Father a verb. When you take, what's the definition of our? Well, that's a plural word. That means for the people, because our meant people, and then Father meant creation. So it's for the people of the Father. Say it backwards, for the Father of the people. All of you learned about God, or the Father, because your parents taught you, a church taught you, minister, newspapers, magazines, Bibles. In other words, it's the cycle of life. You are created because someone created you, and then you are taught by that person to create again. So it's a circle. By taking every single phrase, adverb, verb, and turning it into a prepositional phrase and expanding upon the definitions. Using all now time facts of the synonyms of now times facts. Like you can have the word international. If you look it up in the dictionary, it's going to give you one kind of a definition. When you look it up in the book of synonyms, it's going to give you many different other words that mean international. But in is no, ter is terra, nation is people, al is contract. So you have a no earth people contract. Now, if you want to go to quantum, you use the word global, because it means to glow or to expand. A tail means a contract. So you have an expanding contract. And the only way two or more people come together is through contract, called citizens. And Earth is a spaceship. It's in a sea of space. So therefore, it's spaceship Earth. Water is not what you think it is. It's not a sea. We live in a sea of space. Water can be frozen, which is hard, just like land. You can walk on snow, which is water. You ski on snow. You ice skate on water, which is a solid. Earth used to be a molten ball of lava. The water boils at 212 degrees at sea level. So water is not a sea issue. Water is a foreign entity to this planet. Comets are made of water. So when a comet fell into the heat of the orbit of planet Earth because of its gravity, it rained. There's a big flood because the comet melted and created the seas. And that's how the seas became what they are. So when they talk about where does the sea start, what is the bar of the courtroom, or what is the sea of water versus the land, that's nonsense. Earth is a vessel in the sea of space. So the sea of space makes all things on Earth maritime. All 9 billion humans on planet Earth are vessels walking as cargo on the Earth. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. We came from the Earth, we go back to the Earth. Cycle of life. So we're just components. These buildings are vessels in dry dock because they are not native to the soil that they sit upon. A road is a foreign vessel in dry dock. It is not part of planet Earth. It came from the Earth, recreated, and then was poured into a road. Did the road pay docking fees? Does the road have its sea pass, sea treaty, drogue law? Was the road posted by the correct credentials? Because you have toll roads, where you have somebody now claiming private contract on that road, taking a toll for the creation and upkeep of that road. That's a private contract outside of what we call our international highways, or the interstate. An no earth state. It's a no earth state condition of a road, so therefore no one claims contract to it because the people put it together. So we have our interstate system and we have a toll road system.
Point being, everything's contract.
Everything is contract, and someone owns everything. Even this pen I'm holding. We came in here, this building, the people who allowed us to pay for this area of a closed box. And what goes on inside of our box is an enclosed area, and it's a private contract. It's all about maritime vessels, dealing contracts with people, and the way we conduct ourselves.
One of the main focuses of the Directors Party is we want to take a look at some of the social engineering and retrain that. And these are some of the reasons why we run for president, is because when you look at, if I ask the audience, when's the last time anybody of you saw a live unicorn? A talking cat? A talking mouse? Point being, these are the cartoons that are placed in front of us as we are young children. And it desensitizes our capability to discriminate what is genuine and authentic and what is not. So they start at a young age programming us to take away our capabilities to find correctness. And that's part of the reason why we've grown hats.
And all cartoons are based on combat. There's always somebody fighting somebody else, the good and the evil, the cat and the mouse. So you're desensitized then to give you all your video games of violence. So the first thing you want to do is join the military and play a game. The game is with real bullets and real bombs.
It's very sad.
And today it's real videos controlling drones, which kill real people. And you know what real means? RE means no, and AL is contract. We have no contract because it's all written in adverb verb. There are no laws, rules, regulations, or codes. It's voluntary compliance. You are volunteering to participate in an illusion because you weren't told it was an illusion. You think you're fighting for a country. You think you're fighting for freedom or democracy. Follow the money. You've heard that your whole life. And the bankers control everything through mortgages. And even when you think you've paid off something, you're still paying the military through taxes to make sure nobody plants rice in your backyard. So the point is, you're under contract from cradle to grave to perform in a specific manner. And if you don't perform, even your automobile that you pay cash for is a certificate, which means debit of title. Debit is a pronoun, which means no, no, no. Of is an adverb making title a verb, so you have a debit of nothing. As long as you have your insurance, tags on the car, keep it in a safe operating position under public safety, you now have the authority to go ahead and drive that automobile. If you do not have one of the four items, a driver's license, which means you have physical capabilities, your safety sticker so you don't go ahead and create pollution to endanger other people's health, insurance. Now, in means no surety, which is contract. So your insurance policy is written in adverb verb, which means nobody has insurance. They just keep paying for it as a hidden tax.
So what we want to create is what we call surety. And so it's a different style so you can control and make claims when you get damaged. And that way your values don't disintegrate into subjective interpretation.
If you have a surety with a gold certificate, your $5,000 bond is worth $50,000, covering all the categories required by the state.
Correct.
You buy one $5,000 bond, you put up $5,000, you get a $50,000 bond, you don't have to buy insurance for the rest of your life as long as you don't get into an accident. But if you injure somebody or get into an accident, then you are prone to, if it exceeds your $50,000 in cash, then it comes out of your pocket. You can set that up on a tripod. We allow recording for everybody here, so yes. We're going to start this morning by going through the syntax operations. Now, the reason we're going to do this is because when this is everything that we do that affects every topic of the dictionary has to come from syntax. So you got to start at a foundation before you can get into a topic. And we're not talking about subject matter because sub means no, object, which is contract. We're not talking about a no contract, but we are talking about how to expose you to what no contract means to you and how many different ways you can participate in a no contract scenario. So you've got zero as a conjunction, which is and or. Now, conjunctions don't modify anything. We'll get into that when we put up, you can set it up here if you want. We're going to get into the math problem. When you see the math associated with the parts of speech, it's really clear as to how this was created. Then you also have the numbering system. We use the numbering system because 0 through 9 is a natural phenomena of the parts of speech, what we call syntax and how it operates. Somebody says, well, can we use ABCs? Yes, you can use ABCs, or you can use color pens. As long as you take jurisdiction for what this key means here. Then you have a position, and it's easier to write a number on top of a word than it is to write the entire word out, like the word adjective. How are you going to write the word adjective on top of the word red and still put in the rest of the sentence? It doesn't work that way because it's too crowded. And because we're only working with 1, 2, 3, and 4, because these here are the 4 conditions of the world of fiction, it makes it very simple because there's only 4 numbers to memorize and the operations to which they function under. So we use 1 for the adverb because an adverb always comes in front of a verb. 1 comes before 2, natural. 1 comes before 3, as an adverb always comes in front of an adjective. 3 always comes in front of 4 because an adjective always comes in front of a pronoun. Now, when you put 2 nouns together, black is a fact and pen is a fact. So black would become the adjective of pen. If you don't put a hyphen in there, it becomes an adjective pronoun. If you hyphenate it, then it's a pronoun. Like if I wrote, no, I got it here. If I write black pen, this would be a 3 and this would be a 4. If I put a hyphen in here, that turns this into a 4. If I put the word the here in front of it, this would become an adverb now. This would become an adjective, making pen into a pronoun without the hyphen. If I put the hyphen in here, then both 3 and 4 become 2s, which is a compound verb underlined. If I put the word 4 in front of here, now this is a preposition or a position. This is loadial article. And these both become 7, which is a fact. It's a compound fact. If I take the hyphen out, all authority runs backwards. Black pen, this would be a 3-4. The word the would now become an adverb, and the word 4 would become a pronoun. It's the only mathematical way it can happen. So frontwards and backwards, the math has to be correct. So when and this is only using one idea. Now we have here the deed of trust for California. 12 states use the word mortgage, 38 use the word deed of trust. Now, instead of using numbers here, we use color codes. You can't see what the words are from back there, but you can see the color from back there. So the pink, it represents the adverb. The verb is represented by green. So, and then the adjective and the pronoun are both left neutral without coloring those. So you know it's always going to be, first word is going to be an adjective, second word is going to be a pronoun. And these are how many mistakes are on your deed of trust. 4,700 of them to be exact. And if you modify something or you color it, that's prejudice, that's perjury, because you're modifying it how the fact is. There's 300 words per page.
Yes, sir.
If you color it, it's what?
By coloring it, they used to take the words and put them together after they saw us putting numbers on back in 2000. So the courts and the attorneys put the words touching each other, so there'd be no place to put the numbers. So we color coded it. So we went back to single spacing again, so we could put the numbers back in. Then when they realized that we could prove the fraud with the numbers,
Color coding.
then they said, okay, we'll screw up and prove he doesn't know what he's doing. Now this is just how many adverbs appear in 300 words, which is illegal. And these are your prepayment riders that they put on the back, how many modifications they do.
Illegal.
See now, from back there you can see the color, and from seeing the color you can see the value of 4,700 mistakes certified frontwards and backwards to be a trick of adverbs, adjectives, and turning all the facts into verbs. You're only allowed 1 verb in a sentence. Some of these sentences have 8 verbs in them. Okay, then the position, what we used to call the preposition, as we were taught when you were 10 years old. The preposition then went to what was called the article. But a vowel and two consonants, which is AR, the word art itself is an illusion, creation. So the word art, A-R-T, the first two letters create because the word tickle is also a word, but article is a no contract word because LC, tick is small, and this is contract. So it's a no small contract is an article. Now article would be it's for my pen, for his pen, for your pen, for her pen. You see, I changed the definition of the article, and I changed the ownership of the pen. If I say for your pen, for my pen, for his pen, for her pen, I change the preposition now. Instead of the article of ownership, I changed it again. We have 38 articles and 68 prepositions. 68 times 38 is 2,000 divided by 2 is 1,000. And 100 of them you will never use, not even in any condition of logic. So you got 900 definitions for every word. And if I could change this times 900, 900 times 900 is 810,000. Times 900 is 720 million. Times 900 is 640 billion. Times 900 is 540 trillion. So you can see, in a 6-word sentence, we're dealing with 540 trillion variables for one sentence. And he says, well, that's impossible for us to do that. And that's just for one sentence. I says, well, I wrote a 195-page book here, and it's all mathematically certified, frontwards and backwards, in quantum language. All of our lawsuits, 12,000 of them, are done the same way. So don't tell me it can't be done. So then we have allodio, which is your article. We had to change that. LO is location, DI is original, AL is contract. This is called parse. You want to learn about parse, you can pick up a hymn book from any religion that sings songs. And every single syllable that goes with the sound of music is dedicated to a parse of a word. And therefore, if you pick up a hymn book, and then you get the dictionary book by the Masons on parse, you can look up the definitions of all the parses written into a hymn. You know that almost half of all the words in hymns mean the word no contract because it's a vowel, A, E, I, O, and U, followed by 2 consonants. So you're rarely singing no contract, no contract, no contract, no contract, no contract, until you're so brainwashed that when somebody shows you quantum and you actually understand it, you go into shock. Your brain rewrites itself in 5 minutes. You will stand there in goosebumps all over your body, and you will shake as your brain is coming to awareness that you've been lied to since you were 9 months old. And when you make that transition, you can never go back into the world of fiction. It just doesn't happen. You pick up a newspaper, a magazine, anything document that's handed to you to read, the only thing you can do is syntax it. When you realize how big the lie is and how the words have been misrepresented, it's really has an effect on your belief systems.
Very humbling.
Now the 7, the preposition, was always in front of the article, which was in front of the pronoun, the noun, which is a N-O-U-N, which means no. So if you have no position, preposition, because pre, P-R-E, P-R-A-E-I-O, and U mean no. I don't care what word you put them in front of. You got practice. Attorneys have a practice. A-T-T, no contract, when they practice. P-R-A. T-I is title, C-E is contract. No title contract is what they practice. And then you have a article, which is an illusion, contract. And then you have they told you if you have no position and you have no small contract, then you have a no-no. And they advertised it to you, and you always thought prepositional phrases were cool.
But you were desensitized.
Yeah.
You've been desensitized at such a young age that you can't assimilate what's genuine and what's authentic. And so this is why we're trying to bring the consciousness up to the knowledge to the people, and then give people a chance to vote us in to make those changes so we take out those subliminal messages that so we can have authenticity in our thinking, so we don't go to war and we don't create all the strifes and have tolerance for we the people.
Then the next thing they did to us was they used pastime words, which was ed, all words ending in ed, and the word from. Future time words were freed and to. And so anything that's in the future doesn't exist. The past always comes before the future, just like 8 comes in front of 9. So we accounted for the 10 parts of speech, but where's your now time? See, they never told you where now time is, and you always live in now time. You can only be damaged in now time. You only exist in now time. So you have to change your volition of thinking.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if it's an N-O-W, does N-O, does that not like eliminate now time? I use current, but
Okay.
Current is good, but you put a diphthong over yeah, so.
it just you N-O and now. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, here we have the word
Okay.
known, right? This comes from knowledge. I'll get it. Here you have a ledger, and here you have now time ledger, and you have to know what you're doing for your math, because math is no one's ever gone to war over a math problem in history of mankind, so math is a correct factor, especially when you're going to deal with a ledger. When you have the word now, K-N-O-W, you have the word own, you have now time, and you have the word know, K-N-O-W. Now you have to put this, we went researched, and you have to have a line over O-W that's Russian, which makes A, E, I, O, and U, and sometimes W, sometimes Y. My, by. Say the word try. This becomes the vowel now. But when you're dealing with the W factor, you have law, which is fiction, and then you have law, which is fact, with that line over AW. That's 1775 or 1750 Russian. And then they struck it.
And so if you put that over the OW in the now.
The same thing, right? And that captures that.
Okay.
So you don't have the word no.
Oh, okay. I didn't. Well,
Yeah,
okay,
okay.
okay.
These are
Diphthong.
secrets.
Look up the word diphthong.
You have
T-H-O-N-G.
in English language our PH is F, but in most of all foreign languages that use the ABC alphabet use the word F, letter F for
Yeah.
PH, and they dropped that. Like phone in England is F-O-N-E.
Good question.
But if you underline it, does it?
Then it creates.
It's not underlined. You have to put the line above
Okay.
the
You
OW.
put the line above the OW.
Same thing, word law.
Okay.
It creates a diphthong.
What was that?
Every
Diphthong.
dictionary that's published has this information, but who reads a dictionary? When was the last time you read your prefixes or your suffixes or your styles manual in a dictionary? You know, your big Webster's dictionary, that one that's 6 inches thick, last one published was 1906.
Sorry.
And it has all this information in. In 1906 was when all the laws in the United States, which were handled by numbers, like the Sherman Law, were then transferred into codes, specific codes, with a numbering system on it, because numbers could be very easily, was easier to catalog. And that's when the Webster's Dictionary was also cataloged with the Styles Manual. Now, if you think the Webster's 6-inch dictionary or the Funkin Webster's Dictionary, which is also 6 inches thick, or Encyclopedia Britannica's dictionary is 6 inches thick, you have 3 2-inch volumes. You have World Book, which is 3 2-inch volumes.
Oxford.
The Oxford is about a foot thick, but the Cornell University Dictionary is 4 feet thick. And what they did there is they took every word on planet Earth. Now, every word was also identified by a judge, established a definition of a word because of the condition of how it was used. Give you an example. Here I have a pen, P-E-N. It's used for writing. If you look up any dictionary, it's going to say it's a writing instrument. But if I took this pen and I put it into a prison system, the next guy using it is going to do this, or he's going to do this and make a stabbing tool out of it. So now it's a concealed weapon for stabbing somebody and causing harm. You get 10 years in prison for a concealed weapon, 10 years for assault with a deadly weapon. So you get a 20-year prison sentence because you played games with the word pen. So be careful who you talk to, how you present yourself, because you could wind yourself up in jail real easy. My buddy did that. Police officer pulls him over. He's an electrician. He's got copper in his car because he cuts off, he just put in a 600 amp system. So he's got copper wires 1 inch in diameter, about the A long, but he's got duct tape tied around the end, because when you pull the heavy wire through the cables, which are 4 inches in diameter, you've got to put duct tape around a rope and then pull it through. When you get it to the other end, you cut it off with your big clippers. He's got the scrap laying in his car to go to the junkyard because they're paying $3.85 a pound per copper. So the cop says, well, you have a club. He says, no, it's scrap copper. He says, no, it's a concealed weapon. I'm going to give you a ticket for carrying a concealed weapon in your car. He says, oh, I suppose you're going to do the same thing with my ballpoint pen because you can stab somebody with it. Oh, now you're confessing that you have a pen with $2,500 fine. You had to pay it. 30 days in jail, too, for playing games. But I happened to be at that specific hearing, and that happened in Duluth, Minnesota, at the court. And guess what happened? The judge, I'm in there, and I introduced myself as a federal judge. So the judge gets up, and he walks outside. His brother-in-law's there, who's a plumber. He says, here, put my robe on. Go in there and take $2,500 off this guy and put him in jail for 30 days. So the plumber puts on his brother-in-law's robe, and I'm out there standing right next to the guy listening to what's going to happen next. And he walks in there and says, bailiff, take this man and put him in jail for 30 days. I want a $2,500 fine, because he knew he had $2,500 cash on him when they brought him in because he just sold his motorcycle. And after that happened, I went down to see Barbara Crabb at the federal court in Madison, Wisconsin, and Lake County was shut down. They fired all the people that were working in the court system. They were shut down for 6 weeks because of that little incident that took place, showing that there are no laws, rules, regulations, or code. This building here is a vessel and dry dock called the courthouse. And in their vessel and dry dock, they weren't on the state of Wisconsin. You know what the word state of Wisconsin, state of California means? It's the name of the vessel of the courthouse in dry dock. You live in the territory of the California territory, folks. You live in the territory of Georgia, territory of Wisconsin.
Norway.
All road signs are the distance between one vessel in dry dock called the courthouse and another vessel in dry dock called the courthouse. That's how those road signs got up there with the numbers on them. You don't believe me? Go out and measure your highways and check to see where your county seat is, where the courthouse is to the next courthouse. Federal courthouse to federal courthouse. Or state courthouses between counties. That's why you have county signs, different road names and distances. But on that name of that road, there's going to be a courthouse. That's how they break everything up.
We have methods around that, which I'll get into later.
Yeah, this is all part of the tricks and traps that are
So each
helping.
road is basically assigned to a courthouse?
Yes.
Yes, it is. And that's why when you get a speeding ticket, always on your speeding ticket, the sheriff or the hypo, highway patrol always puts them on which mile marker you were at.
Right.
Wow.
So it shows you what jurisdiction you're in based on that mile marker
Correct.
location. Not that anybody, but it has a secondary level of accuracy. And how does accuracy spell? ACC? No contract. A vowel and two consonants. Remember that. As I speak, I will use words that are a vowel and two consonants. But I'm saying that because these are no contract words, and I will stop myself and identify why it happens. Because every law, rule, regulation, and code, your traffic tickets have 400 mistakes on them. Grammatics mistakes. And if you hold it up to the light, you have a watermark box around both sides of it. Everything on your ticket is in a box, which is an enclosed area and can't be considered. Therefore, because the law written for the number in the box is also written in adverb verb and says nothing. So because you have all these different levels of fiction on top of fiction, the oath of office for every single politician, every single police officer, every single military, everything is based on a dangling participle verb. And if you have a dangling participle verb, it's illegal to end the sentence that way. But when you go into the mechanics of the writing that is used, all the advertising that's put up on in the courthouses, every single one of them go back to a no contract scenario. Use a vowel and two consonants as a no contract scenario. Russell and I looked up every single word in English language under A, E, I, O, and U for vowel, two consonants, and all the synonyms and all the different definitions. That's an 8,000-hour exercise. Him and I worked on just that one thing for 2 years, doing nothing else. Side by side, 16 hours a day to get that and prove that fact. And we have proved that fact in any other translation to any other language. Because my website's written in 150 different languages with no translation deviation. If a language does not, like Hebrew, does not have A, E, I, O, and U because they're hollow sounds. So we have to put those back in. But they don't use prepositional phrases either. So we leave our own prepositional phrases in the location. Arabic doesn't use prepositional phrases. So we put in the prepositional phrases and we do it in a mechanical way. We don't do it as a sentence structure horizontal. We do it like this.
So when we write bank contracts in Arabic and we do the translation, the English sentence will be frontwards and backwards horizontally, and when we write the Arabic and we're doing from nation to nation for global stuff, we put their sentences like this and let the people contracting in, postmaster, bankers, write in their facts this way. That way we lose no deviation between English and Arabic when we do the global financial stuff.
Good question. I noticed you're writing everything in caps.
Conditional reflex. It's called shout. Now, shout is a command. It's not an order, because the word order is spelled O-R-D. It means no contract. That's why everything written in the laws are written in upper and lower case, because they're whispers, and also in adverb verbs, so they say nothing at any time.
Except for in one spot, and that's in Federal Rules Civil Procedure 44.1, and they go like this. This deals with foreign courts. They go.
Oh, the court, yeah.
Yeah, what?
That's all you need. Just
Well,
the word.
Well, this is what it says. And this is under Federal Rules Civil Procedure 44.1 under foreign judges, because all judges fly yellow fringe flags or vertically suspended flags. So they hang their flag vertically this way, so it suspends the contract within the courtroom. So they go, laws of boxing, eliminate the T, key court, not jury, bracket. This is why we put judges in judges boxes and jury in jury boxes. So anything they say can't be considered.
It can't be seen or heard. When you have the word he court, he is an adverb making court into a verb. Where are you going to put the verb court? State of California. That was an adverb making California dangling participle verb. So you got a verb court for a verb country. Then you have not
jury, right after it.
well, you don't have
That's
or no jury.
Well, it says not jury. I'm just saying what they say.
And then no is a negative. You can't prove a negative of anything. JU means no. And the word RY is contract.
And that's the only place in law that you're going to see the capital shout. And it's in every civil rule, the civil procedure for every state.
Then when you write, you want to learn how to syntax, or how to creatively write syntax, you do it vertical until your brain can adapt. So you make flashcards for the is, are, with the, of the. Now, yeah, take that.
Yeah.
So it's for the knowledge. So this would be a claimant's knowledge. Claimant's knowledge of the facts is or are with the claim possessive claim. See, with is a possessive. So you have a possessive claim because as an individual, you look around the room and you accumulate information. There's 1,000 pieces of information in this room that you can see. Now you're going to take that information, you're going to store it in your computer, your brain. Just like we have our computers, we put information into it. You have to think of what you want to do in the form of facts that you put into your computer. And this is, the is-are is thinking, which means motion. That's why the courts have you file motions, because you must think. And you have to establish your knowledge. Doesn't the judge say, did you go to school? Do you have a job? Can you drive a car? He walks you through a series of questions to establish your ability of education, how much educational facts you have absorbed, and then are you going to understand how to motion those facts into a thinking condition of a claim when he says, do you understand? He just asked you a whole series of adverb questions that said nothing in a box on a different plane, because he's sitting up here on plane number 1, and you're over on plane number 5. Here's the petitioner and Navasali, or the claimant and a defendant. So you're going to go ahead and say, yeah, I understand, and then you say you understand. UN means no, DER is contract, stand is standing. So you have no contract standing. Now you're mute before the court. What happens when you're mute before the court? Then the judge can't see or hear you, and neither can the prosecution. So with the possessive claim of the contract.
And these prepositional phrases are cause, consequence, the verb of thinking, possession assignment, possession assignment, possession assignment.
See, now we're going to break this down further with the possession claim of a contract. Well, with the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar of the rules, regulations, codes, with the venue, with the with avoidance by the perjury. Now, if you read this backwards, by becomes for, with becomes of. Then you bring in your verb as your second condition, and of is with is of, and it becomes, these are the opposite prepositions. So for the perjury of the avoidance is with the rules, regulations, and codes of the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar, with the contract of the possessive claim with the facts by the claimant's knowledge. See, now the authority going backwards says the same thing as the authority going frontwards. The unique thing about our technology is all these facts are still facts. And the order of operations going backwards is just like having a math problem. If we go to a math problem,
on the knowledge, should I on claimant's knowledge, should I put the
Yes.
of the OW?
You can,
Okay.
but you have,
it's a compound.
it's a compound, so you're okay.
Okay, cool.
If it was now, that would be different.
So you have 1 plus 2 equals 3, and 3 minus 2 equals 1. See, so we're going to reduce this into linear mathematics. Now, when you do a math problem, you got a whole number coming in, you got a whole number coming out, you got a whole number conclusion, and you got a whole number to start with to work the problem backwards. So these are facts. Now an equal sign, and I don't care what type of math you want to do, add, subtract, multiply, divide, sine, cosine, tangent, trigonometry, calculus, equal signs do not affect any of the math that you're doing. Those are conclusions.
Yes.
So they're going to be your conjunctions. Because they don't have any modifications to change anything in the formula. Now you have a plot, you have a +2, and you've got a -2. Well, when you do graphing in school, and you graphed it, you were in motion going across your number systems. So because you're going from plus to minus or minus to plus, these are called verbs. We put the 2, we gave that the verb thinking. Now after we factor that out then, what we have left is we have a plus and a minus, and that was called the preposition or the position. For the bridge is over the water. For the water is under the bridge. Over and under are opposite prepositions, and both pictures are identical. And that's what we're doing here is we're showing you if it's true for a picture, then it's true for the values of the logic of sentence structuring as well. Then when we translate it to any other foreign language on planet Earth, we use the same things. We establish, when I broke the mathematical interface between the Chinese language with 10,000 symbols and what their prepositional phrases were, I says, do you have a symbol for the word for? And they says, well, yeah, we do. You have a symbol for the word of. You have a symbol for the word with and a symbol for the word by. He said, yes, these are the symbols. You have a symbol for the word the, an article. They said, yes. Okay, the only thing I had to do is plug in the noun of the symbol, like what is a pen. And when I asked the symbol through my Google Translator, it gave me the English translation. So when I went to China, I took my phone, I put my Google Translator thing on, put this around my neck, get into a cab, and I said, I want to go to the Summer Palace. And this phone translated my English into, I want to go to the Summer Palace, and it printed it out so they could read it in Chinese, Mandarin. Then he spoke back to me and told me what the fare was in Chinese. And then the phone spoke to me in English, telling me what the fare was to go there. Just like the universal translators on Star Trek, you know?
Yeah.
Or he wears his badge, which is a universal translator.
Yeah.
And you know what? I went around, I spent 22 days the first time in China and 10 days in Hong Kong and Macau at the casinos for 2 more days. And I didn't have trouble with anybody. I even had translators assigned to me, but I could do quite well on my own. I did the same thing in France, Germany, and Italy, Switzerland, Norway. So it's that Google Universal Translator is really unique. Now, using that as a base science, they said we couldn't write an English translation in quantum for Chinese in 9 months. I did it in 45 minutes over lunch. How? I went ahead and I established the symbols for these words, the symbol for the, a, and for this also. And then whatever the fact was, every English fact has a Chinese translated word. And so I could translate the technology that I was there over lunch and have it printed out immediately. And the computer did all the work for me through my Google Translator. I just had to organize how the program was to be read. And I printed out these patents for the technicians, which only spoke Chinese. And then he said, can you do this in Russian? I says, yeah, Control-Shift. Took all of everything that I had just put in the computer in Chinese, and translate it into Russian. Then I says, well, what about German? It's our third biggest trade partner. Yeah, 4 minutes later, computer printed out all this stuff in German. How about Italy, Spanish, Arabic, Indian, Thai, Japanese. And this thing, in a matter of seconds, the computer rewrote everything mathematically certified frontwards and backwards. And on my website is 150 different languages frontwards and backwards on a global basis. I've got university professors from their respected countries screaming at me that you can't do this. You can't establish these secrets because you just disqualified our universities, our colleges. And so, what's that?
I'm just going to see where we're at here, just for order of operations. Just want to see where people are at.
Oh,
Yeah.
that one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
This here is it's a game. It's a math problem. The average person takes 2 hours to figure out.
Can anybody figure that out? Just out of curiosity.
Well, first we got to finish this.
Okay, you finish that, and then we'll get into it.
And this. So these, as the parts of speech, this was the mathematical interface. You know, I spent 3 years, 1,000 hours, 1,000 days working out this to get my children back. The judge said to me, when you can show me the mathematical interface and grammar, you will be able to write a lawsuit to get your children back and not make a fool of yourself. And the first thing I did was prosecute that judge and have him disbarred. I got my kids back. So the technology was sound. And the secret math interface on all 5,000 languages was 1 + 2 = 3, 3 - 2 = 1. The smallest of things, the simplest of things was the answer. And it was an elusive of human beings for 8,500 years. Never figured it out. And from this one math problem, I could prove everything that was wrong, everything that was right. And where I've written 23 books now, put up a 400-page website, and done 2,500 seminars. I've done 38 live television shows, wrote the programs on the 9/11 disaster, and got all the settlements, disqualified 3,800 illegal lawsuits from the 9/11 case. Got independence for Hawaii, wrote the lawsuit that won $880,000 from England for the Solomon Island massacre of 1929 that nobody would touch until 2002 when I was over there, and I went ahead and broke the code on the case. Wrote the lawsuit and was awarded in 2012 that the Solomon Island and Guadalcanal survivors received $880 million from England.
Yeah, when we were at the United Nations and David presented himself as a witness, I can tell you that they knew who he was. They said, "You're the guy." And we presented our bank charters because we were presenting our bank charters in quantum grammar called the Global Banking Constitution to all nations on the planet, giving away, just showing them what technology is coming, how we're going to be moving monies, what were the qualifications for moving values from point A to point B, and what were the criteria for countries to engage with that, or to commune with that, sorry about the negative word.
When people take and they try to do things horizontally, they're trying to overwrite a horizontal romance with your left brain. Your left brain is romance. Your right brain, however, is mathematics, is your logic center. So when I gave you this in vertical rather than horizontal, I showed you a math problem. Your brain is going to graph this on your left, in your right brain, and it's going to understand that if you make flashcards, put them on the ground, write words and move the words around, so you're not writing. Now, writing is a skill. It's an art form, just like art. But when you put things into flashcards and blocks on the ground, your mind is going to start forming puzzles. It's going to look at it as a puzzle of blocks, just like when you play with Legos. I don't care if you're an adult. You sit down with your grandkids, you're going to build something with Legos or Lincoln Logs, because it's mathematics and it's relaxing to you because you can't lie about a math problem. You can't lie about mechanics. So this goes in to your logic side of the brain. The minute you get this, it overwrites your left side, and you can't look at anything without looking at it from a mathematical procedure. Then when you read our numbering codes on when we syntax our lawsuits, give you an idea. We have a, let's see. Go ahead.
All right.
Put a little plug in
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Let
What-
me get this out.
What this means is, well, do you guys know the answer?
I
What-
remember it.
You know the answer, don't you? Your numbers are your facts. If you don't put your functions, which are the plus and the equal sign, in the right location, you get the wrong answer. Same thing holds true with the order of operation of words. So you have 4 plus 5 equals 3 to the second. Right? Because 9 equals 9. So if you drop out the procedure and you don't do the correct procedure, you can't come up with the right conclusion. Because 9 equals 9. So what we're showing you is that the function of how we move things around is relevant to how you're going to contract and how people contract when you're deciding to make a vote. Because if you have the wrong function, you're going to get the wrong outcome over and over and over again. So putting in the right correct variable and the right function on how to vote for a president as a citizen of this country is one of the most valuable things you can know. Because then you can find out who actually has your best concerns in mind. Because as a public servant, that's what we have to be cognizant of. We can show you a construct, but as we put ourselves into public positions and become public servants, then the values of what we have to do change. So you need to be cognizant of that.
So you have 3,800 different branches of government controlled by the Postmaster General. The president is no more than a puppet. He's where you direct your attention to redirect your anger. So he takes all the flack. That's why he becomes famous.
Let me show you how the illusion works so you can see it in your own minds. The Super Bowl was on February 1st. They got everybody in the United States looking at Super Bowl, and then they had do a little tiny announcement at 2 o'clock on Super Bowl Sunday, which nobody paid attention to. They switch out postmaster generals. But they got everybody looking at the Super Bowl, and nobody's paying attention to what's really going on, which is the shipping wars that you are all in. So, go ahead and take over. I won't get into the real
Who's the
game.
new person?
The real game.
December 12, 2012. Now I have prosecuted all the federal judges in Honolulu, Hawaii. I've been in Honolulu, Hawaii since 1995. I was elected in 1997 to be the king of Hawaii when all the kapunas, the 72 families, got together and appointed me to be the king of Hawaii because I wrote the Constitution for Hawaii that was won at The Hague. And from that, Bill Clinton had to apologize to Hawaii for stealing the Hawaiian Islands in 1893 and again in 1959 for statehood. Now, a unique thing took place. The United States of America in 1893 was in bankruptcy. First bankruptcy was in September 17th, 1782. That was domestic in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. 7 years later, that expired because it was on September 17th, 1789. Rothschild then buys the bankruptcy of England, which is international, turning it into a 70-year international bankruptcy. That runs till September 17th, 1859, plus 45-day trust law comes up to November 2nd, presidential election day. Before the trust expired, we had to elect a new trustee for the trust, which was Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln doesn't take office until 90 days later, from November 2nd until February 2nd, 1860, 3-day rescission law. Fort Sumter gets bombed, and we now create the Civil War. Now, when the South left the North was sovereign. They were not in bankruptcy. Because the bankruptcy ended for the North was sovereign. So now you have two sovereign nations being split in half. The United North had no cash, but the South had gold, silver, tobacco, and cotton, and had trade with Europe, so they were very rich. And they had everybody, because of the money, had educations. They had military schools, and Lee was a real good general, had good education. And the North had arrogance, but they had the machinery. So the North renewed the bankruptcy, Lincoln did, for another 70 years. When
They had to pick up 5 states, though.
Yeah, so they lost the 5, and so they picked up Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, Wisconsin, Michigan. And so we went ahead and
For their
they
flag.
still had 13 states that were involved with the North, and then the southern states were sovereign under gold and silver because they had gold silver banking, where the North had debt banking with bankruptcy. So during the course of the war, President Grant was the Postmaster General, who was also a military general. Lincoln gets assassinated, and so the Postmaster General was elected to the presidency. Benjamin Franklin was the first Postmaster General, so he goes on the $100 bill because the decimal point for 100 is 1.00. Grant was the Postmaster General of a country divided in half, who became a president, so he went on the $50 bill. Lincoln was the first Postmaster General of Illinois for 20 years, so he was put on the penny, and or on the $5 bill, but he went on the penny as the first postmaster who became in charge of the second international bankruptcy. So that's why he's on the penny and the 5. Washington got the quarter and the $1 bill. Now the reason he's on the $1 bill because he was only a letter carrier for the Continental Congress, and a letter carrier is only 1/100th the importance of a Postmaster General. So he wound up on the $1 bill. But he was also a 34-degree Mason, Freemason, so therefore the Masonic, all the information on the $1 bill is Masonic. And then Jackson was the 20, and Jefferson was on the 2, because he was the Postmaster General, who became the second president, and the 20 for 20. And Hamilton was the 10th Postmaster General for the $10 bill. And that's how those got placed in location. Now you take the bankruptcy, September 17, 1789, 1859, and 70 years later is September 17, 1929, plus 45 days is November 2nd, 1929. But you have to give 5-day notice if you're going to cancel your contract, your trust. So England says we're closing all banks and credit unions on October 29, 1929. And the stock market is margined at 95 to 5, and it crashes because the money has been inflated. For every $5, they made $100. And when they went to collect, there was no money, so it collapsed the banks for the next 10 years. And there was no money in the United States. Then in 1939, the war breaks out, and we go ahead and get ourselves into World War II. Now, World War II was, Roosevelt needed to get the people involved because we were an isolated country. Fascism had to be stopped because of the Nazis, but Congress didn't have any way to get the United States involved. So we go back to Hawaii. When was the New World Order created? October 22nd, 1871. Rothschild goes to Hawaii because Hawaii was the center of the coal, C-O-A-L, coal industry in the Pacific Ocean. No steamer could go from the Asia to the west coast of California without stopping in Hawaii for coal. The British, the Portuguese, the French, Spaniards, and the United States and the Germans all wanted control of Hawaii. So on October 22nd, 1871, the banking started with the New World Order to take over Hawaii. So they took all the gold and silver because of whaling. There was 1,000 whalings, 200,000 whales a year taken in the Hawaiian Islands. And they went ahead and they put money in place. All the money had railroad trains, stagecoaches, Pony Express, and shipping pictures on all the money. So we're dealing with transportation. The post office controls the DOT, Department of Transportation, and the post office also controls the Treasury. This is a worldwide issue, by the way. So the post office, called the Universal Postal Union, goes ahead and captures Hawaii first to control the entire Pacific. Then, in 1 year after that, under Title 46, Chapter 781, which is 1 year maritime law of salvage, it's the 22nd of October, 1872. Now you had 45-day trust law, and it's December 6th, which is the end of the salvage claim. And on December 6, 1872, King Kamehameha V, which is the last reigning monarch, to control all the land in Hawaii under the Bishop's Trust is killed by assassination poison. So now they have, the Masons go ahead and they publish an article in a newspaper on January 8th, ordering all Masons on the Hawaiian Islands to come to Honolulu to Lodge Number 1. Lodge Number 1 is also the Supreme Court of Hawaii, Immigrations, Customs, and the center of the post office for the Hawaiian Islands, also the Center Bank of Hawaii. All done in one building right across the street from the Iolani Palace. Something with there's an underground tunnel that connects them. Now, all the queens and kings of the Hawaiian Islands, when they became queens and kings, had to join the Eastern Star and Masons. The minute you become an Eastern Star or Mason, you must surrender your kingship, queenship, or presidency. So therefore, Queen Iolani was not a queen anymore. She was an Eastern Star 34 degree as a figurehead speaker under the puppet master of the Postmaster General, which was across the street. The Postmaster General in 1873 now publishes an article to have all Masons come to the Iolani Palace. Now, all records in Hawaii were destroyed from 1869 to 1875. So Hightower and I went to the Archive Center looking for information, and all there was a 3x5 card in the card catalog that had a number on it. A number was a microfiche number. The microfiche number led to the newspaper published on January 8, 1873. We were looking for the dimension of the flag. The flag then was 8 stripes, and today's Hawaiian flag only has 7, so it was the wrong flag. So now you go ahead, and while he's looking at the flag, I'm like looking at the obituaries down below in German, French, Portuguese, and English, ordering all Masons in the Hawaiian Islands, because there was a Masonic eye and a Masonic level, to order all the Masons to come to to Lodge Number 1 to pay homage to King Kamehameha V, exactly 45 days after he dies. So it takes it published on the 8th, 3 days by steamer to go out to Kona and Hilo. 3 days back, that's 6. 8 and 6 is 14. And on the January 14th is the 45 day after December 6th. Now you go ahead and you have a 3-day rescission law. The 3-day rescission law goes back 6,500 years in history, all the way back to 4700 BC, where the Pharaoh set this up, and he was a Mason. So these are timelines that have never changed. 70-year international bankruptcy is a 6,500-year-old law.
Thank goodness.
And because I'm a Mason, I'm a 92nd degree Mason, by the way, because I have the only math code translation of all the Masonic history of the world. Okay, now we're up to January 14th, 1873. We have a 3-day rescission law goes into effect, which means on January 17th, 1873, the 20-year death moratorium that was established by King Kamehameha I in 1848 goes into effect. And in 1848, King Kamehameha I said, a white man from America will come to Hawaii and set Hawaiians free with a bird. When I went to Hawaii in May of 1995, a wild female sparrow flew out of a tree, landed on my index finger, and sat there for 2 hours and 45 minutes. As I wrote the Constitution for the Hawaiian Islands, and Bill Clinton had to sign it, and Hawaii got their independence on that day. And from there, I was elected to be the king of Hawaii. But going back to 1873, the 20-year moratorium goes into effect, and now it's 1893, January 17th. U.S. troop ship pulls in, get coal, like they do every day. Postmaster General tells the Admiral, who was a Mason, we're going to take over the Hawaiian Islands now. It's been 20 years, and all Hawaiians are dead because their names are capitalized.
Hail.
And so in 1893, Hawaii then becomes a territory of the United States. And we bring our troops on shore to protect the Hawaiian Islands so that nobody else can cross the Pacific without our permission or by our whole COAL. It's all about power. Then you go ahead and you add another 70 years, 1872, October 22nd plus 45 days is December 7th. and 70-year international bankruptcy is December 7th, 1941, the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The end of the first international bankruptcy, where the Postmaster General of Tokyo and the Postmaster General of Honolulu, Hawaii go to war. But they jumped the timeline. It was 8 o'clock in the morning is when it expired. And the pilot, captain pilot of the attack group, wanted to make a statement at the Rising Sun at 6:30, 90 minutes too early, and bombed only postal vessels. The post office controlled the military ships and planes, and they were the only thing bombed. And every single bomb had a $1 Japanese stamp on it, airmail stamp, delivering the airmail to the Postmaster General of the Hawaiian Islands. No civilian targets were hit. But they put a stamp on it just to make it legal. So when Nagasaki and Hiroshima were bombed, I've got the video of the Postmaster General in 1945 slapping a $1 stamp on a little boy and signing his name across it and smiling at the camera. We're sending the airmail back to Japan just to make it legal. And that ended the war. Now you know the rest of the story.
Well, let's count the 70.
Okay.
All right.
Then you go 70 years from Pearl Harbor Day, and it's 2011, Pearl Harbor Day. And no law becomes legal for 90 days, which is March 5th. You have a 3-day rescission law, which is March 8th, 2012. And then you have a 1-year moratorium under salvage claim, which is March 8th, 2013. And in 2013, my federal building that has been standing in Wailuku, Hawaii, where I live, and was my federal court, was there to prosecute the federal judges and the state judges for treason against the people through fictitious conveyance of language. And
The year before that, under the 1-year salvage, David and I walked into the head post office.
well, we'll get to that after I finish this.
Yeah,
The name of the judge was Susan Oke Mulloway. She was appointed by President Obama. And when I went to court with 22 of my foreclosure clients in Honolulu, the judge says, well, who are all these people? I said, well, they're my clients. I said, by the way, Judge Kern, I have a warrant for your arrest. Yeah, a warrant for my arrest. This is Dorothy Lamb case 12 years ago.
corporation case.
He goes, oh my gosh, he says, you're that David Wynn Miller. He goes, you're the federal judge we appointed. And you prosecuted 22 judges, 12 U.S. attorneys, and 2 clerks for treason against the people, and was upheld by the United States Supreme Court in The Hague in a conference call. It lasted 3 hours and 15 minutes. That legalized my federal judge position and my king position of Hawaii. But I'm only a king of grammar, just grammar. The grammar controls contract. The contract owns everything. That's how I got that. So then we went ahead, and Judge Kobachi was walking in. And I says, you know, I got a warrant for your arrest too. He turns right around and walks back out, and then Mulloway comes walking and says, I know you don't have a warrant for my arrest. He says, I was appointed by Obama. He says, well, okay, so be back on the 17th of April and bring all your people with you. So we showed up. And all the judges were on an airplane in San Francisco, off island, so they couldn't appear in court. So they locked down the courthouse, but I had an order opening the courthouse up, so I walked down to the clerk's office. I filed an order the courthouse open as the chief federal judge of the courthouse, which gave me jurisdiction over all the Hawaiian Islands then as a chief federal postal judge. And I was a chief federal postal judge at that point when we did that. Then Mulloway comes back with this little thing here, order, which means no contract, directing David Wynn Miller as a non-legaire dead person, to show cause. To is an adverb in future, making show cause to be an adjective pronoun. Why he, adverb verb, not calling me a verb, should not, adverb verb, be required, no contract in past tense. To is an adverb in future tense, obtain. OB means no, obtain, which is an adjective of lead. Of court, of is an adverb making court a verb. Before filing, adverb verb, any new actions. Any is an adverb, new is an adjective, and action then becomes a no contract pronoun. So then I went in and I syntaxed this here, showing how many mistakes they made and then wrote a lawsuit and sued her for fraud, and filed this with the, President Obama, saying, you know, you appointed yourself a judge with a second-grade reading level, send it registered mail, so it's a registered mail case. And I says, I'm the chief federal judge, and she has no authorization to babble. So I hereby charge her with treason against the people, as I am the elected king of Hawaii, to get off my island.
Walking through the post office. from
Is she
Pearl.
gone?
Out of Pearl.
Huh?
Is she gone?
No,
Well,
on the case.
she's still in the federal courthouse. It always said federal courthouse. On that day, they took the federal courthouse and they chopped it off, the word off the court building. Now it's just called United States Courthouse. United means no citizen. The ED is in past time, so it's a no citizen condition of state as an adjective of the courthouse. So therefore it's an adjective pronoun, which means nothing. It's a no citizen courthouse, not affiliated with America, because it's a vessel in dry dock. And as long as she's in dry dock, she's a fiction within a fiction of a closed area that's docked in Hawaii under postal treaty with the post office across the street.
So we went there, David and I,
Yeah.
when the bankruptcy ended and the 1-year rescission timeline hit from the 7-year international moratorium from the bombing of Pearl Harbor, from the end of the war, we went there in our timelines and we refiled the banking authorization for quantum banking in Hawaii. It's a legitimate contract that is, we can move assets through there or values, cargo, right now very easily.
March 8th,
Yeah.
2013. Friday, my federal courthouse closes. Perfectly good building, 1.5 foot thick stone walls,
They leveled that sucker.
$1.6 million building on Main Street. I go fishing. It's the weekend. Come back Monday morning, it's a parking lot.
Wow.
Not only did they raise the building, but they turned it into a parking lot. They brought in 12 pieces of heavy equipment, demolished it in 24 hours,
That was amazing.
and hauled it all the way and turned it into a parking lot.
We were-
So there'd be no federal court in Maui for me to prosecute the judges for treason against the people and stealing over 2,200 homes without title.
True story, absolutely amazing. We were so excited because I go to his trials all the time because I'm Postmaster General, and there's things that I'm doing on the background on that, and
When I go in the
tore it
fed,
down.
when I go in the federal
Literally.
court
Right to
in
the day.
Honolulu, all the marshals know me. They know me. I'm the chief federal judge, and they'll salute me as I come in.
Yeah.
So does that stop you from?
No, I just have, usually I have anywhere from 5 to 9 officers accompanying me
No,
anyways.
he went, to answer your question, no, he went back had to go back to Honolulu and use that courthouse. Yeah, because they knew what they were doing, the post office does. So we went back to our authorizations there and then went back to that. What David and I did very uniquely and solitary is on December 21st, 2012, we walked into the first post office in the United States, the Benjamin Franklin Post Office, next to Independence Hall in Philadelphia. And they were being closed down, and they gave us 3-day notice, and we went in there and authorized them to stay open under quantum grammar. They kept our contracts, put it in their vault, and we were in Philadelphia, and we are the 1775 Postmaster General.
January 4th, 1775,
Yeah.
we ordered the court open under Title 42, 1986, for knowledge of a crime and authorization to stop and correct it under Title 28, Section 636.
Yeah, we gave them our
Open a new court.
we gave them our passports. They tailed up the whole museum was closed under construction. They brought in the janitor from the post office. Says, "You two guys are on special duty."
You can open it up.
They opened up the doors. They closed them behind us, and they gave us 3 hours in there. We were getting secrets and doing things on the Benjamin Franklin manuscripts dealing with banking and some of the post roads back from the Virginia colony and some of the things that were done when he was being a triple agent for Britain and for England and for some of the things that was going on there. And we got some keywords that we needed to articulate specific things for our banking program.
One of the things I want to show you guys is we bond our papers
Yeah.
with super glue. There's 3 ways to bond a paper. You can stitch it, you can rivet it, and you can glue it. Super glue works very well because it's a total penetrating like gasoline would be. And when it sets up, it puts it together. Now, a unique thing in the Hawaii, all the contracts in Hawaii going all the way back to the Iolani Palace have a hole punched right through the middle of it, no matter how many pages, and there's one ribbon that ties them all together.
Yeah.
So they've been bonding with stitching in the Hawaiian Islands since all the treaties have made.
So when we do it, when we come in, David and I filed for copyrights on the flag, and we filed for the land of the contract, which is the contract itself, which is very different than everything else. So wherever we go, there's the court. And so we filed that through a letter of derogatory through the Secretary of the State's office, registered it with the United Nations, and we are recognized as the ambassadors to the Title IV grammar flag, Title IV 101.9 grammar flag.
This here is the contract since 1919 used in the Hawaiian Islands for all the Hawaiians to get free housing and free water. All you had to do was sign the contract. Now, as you notice, even from back there, it's the state of Hawaii, pronoun, adverb, verb. Department, which means no, part, contract, is a pronoun. Of is an adverb making Hawaiian to be an adjective, home to be an adjective, and lands to be a pronoun, but they're in the capital letters, not italics. Then they put the person's name in there. The name is spelled in all uppercase spelling, called a nom de guerre, dead person. This is 1919. And this contract is 100% 8 pages of italicized writing. Italics means to remove it from the paper, so it's a blank sheet of paper all the way through. And when you take this, all italics, they get nothing in their name, only that they're nom de guerre, dead people. And the only thing that's on here that's actually written in correct grammar is the description of the land that they're signing up for. So in 20 years being dead on the land, it's free for settlement, and it's retitled in the United States of America Corporation. And that's how the United States stole the islands.
And
When we took it to court in 1997 at The Hague says, where's your closure for using italics, and where's your closure for nom de guerring the names and making the people dead under the 20-year death moratorium? This is 1919. In 1929, they had 100% of the people. They had to wait 20 years. 20 years from 39 to 59. August 25th, 1959, Hawaii becomes the 50th state of America. You see, these are timelines. And the unique thing about what I did to unwind this whole thing, being a 92nd degree Mason, is I know timelines.
Yeah.
So when I saw an obituary published on January 8th, 1873, and I ran the numbers frontwards and backwards, including the first bankruptcy, World War I, and the sovereignty on March 8, 2013, it hits the timeline dates to the minute.
Yeah,
It's not an accident. There's no straight lines in nature. This is all engineered. This is engineered. That mortgage is engineered to be 4,700 frauds. So when I go into court and I say, that's a lie, and under Title 15, Section 1692E, which is the Bernie Madoff case, who stole $69 billion from Wall Street, and I say, this is an engineered fraud. This is an engineered fraud also. I have the forensic evidence in mathematics running frontwards and backwards on timelines that proves this is not an accident. There's no closure, and this was engineered. Give me my $25 million under Title 15, Section 78 FF. And as a whistleblower, I'm entitled to 35% of that because I did all the work, all the research, put it all together and gave it to you on a silver platter. You walk into the bank and say, give me $25 million, and they cut you a check. You know, California was in bankruptcy. You guys were $19 billion in bankruptcy. I wrote the contract for the $26 billion that Kamala Harris got paid, and 10 days later, she got $26 billion handed to her, biggest settlement in the history of the world, and she didn't pay the homeowners. She took the $19 billion and paid off the bankruptcy of California. That was my contract.
They took her to Washington, threw her a party after that.
Yeah, and they gave her a bunch of awards. You know what else?
No.
I told her, I says, you thought $26 billion was a big paycheck. I says, you only had, I don't know, maybe 100 lawsuits that I gave her for that, $26 billion, at $25 million apiece. I says, I've got 600 lawsuits in California at $25 million apiece. I can deliver to you $100 billion once a week until all the mortgages are satisfied. I says, you bit off your nose to spite your face. I says, with this technology in my program, you don't have to collect taxes. The United States banking industry, which I just rewrote their banking charter for the IMF, is the number 26 with 213 zeros after it.
Which they
It
can't,
takes 16 zeros to make a trillion.
which they can't back.
But the point is, they got this big super number out there. And the United States government is owed $400 trillion on bad mortgages. Another $400 trillion from the bank. They're owed another $400 trillion to the Securities and Exchange. But under the Title 15, Section 1639 rescission, Part A, it's 4 times damages. That's $1,200 trillion from both organizations. That's $2,400 trillion is what the United States government corporation has as an asset. Why am I still alive? Because I'm a $2,400 trillion asset to the United States of America Corporation.
And we hit our bankruptcies correct from when they came out of bankruptcy in 1999. We didn't even get into any of that stuff.
Yeah, on August 12th, 1999, I sued the United States of America for the copyrights of the flag of the United States, because I was the first person to write the flag in quantum language. All 199 countries of the United Nations appointed Russell and me as a sovereign corporate country. We had gold bullion, we had a gold bullion banking contract, we had international trade agreements written in quantum, 113 pages. We had, that's our coinage there. It's a platinum and gold coin. It's worth $1,250. We had our Constitution in quantum with the United States, or the United Nations has now written as their United Nations Constitution. We wrote that for them. But they said the condition of state of quantum in a world of 9 billion, at this time 8 billion fictions, is so unique you have to have your own country. And so I was voted in, Russell and I were voted in as a corporation, the United States of a World Corporation at that time, to have our own country as both sovereigns. They said, what land are you claiming though? All the lands have been claimed by all the countries worldwide and all the people. I says, I claim the land of the courtroom floor during the time of quantum contract. I am the director of all courtrooms on planet Earth, and all courtrooms are not a geographical building, but a piece of paper. And what is a piece of paper? It's a vessel in a sea of space. And so therefore, no one had ever claimed the courtroom floor as a geographical location in quantum language, and I own the patents on it. We own the patents on the flag, and that's why this flag is no longer used anywhere in the world except under the correct sentence structure, communication, parse, syntax, grammar. And all countries recognize this flag as a grammar flag, no longer is the constitutional flag of America, because the Constitution was published to be an adverb fiction. Benjamin Franklin, when he wrote the Declaration of Independence, thou was an adverb making declare. De is know, clare is speak, act is location, ion contract. Of is an adverb, modifies independence. In is know, de is know, pen is write, ans is contract. That's parse. So you will not write contract or speak contract, and you will both be in verb at the same time. So even if you figure out one layer of the onion, there's another one below it. And that's why the onion is such a unique condition, that when we have 50 stars on our flag, because there are 50 grammar procedures that you have to know, and 50 different tricks and traps that you have to avoid, which we teach through this program. When you know where the landmines are, you got 100 landmines on the floor here, and you got to go from that wall to this wall. How many of them do you get to step on before you get to this wall? None. You're not allowed to make a mistake in the world of what we are doing is campaigning.
Very dangerous.
So you have to know where the landmines are, and then you can use your knowledge, and that word is knowledge, to go from point A to point B and not kill yourself.
Yeah, just to get here, I had U.S. Secret Service, met with 2 of them, met with U.S. government, Department of Housing, they wanted to talk to me about the foreclosures, and I met with the Air Force just to get here. We were just on the planes, just getting over here. They were monitoring this whole situation. They're very cognizant of the Director's Party. They know it doesn't have a lot of people looking at it, But, I've spoke to some computer programmers, and that can be all rearranged if I so choose at any time. So,
It was said a long time ago that this is prophesized in the Bible, that an unknown political organization will be created and win 92% of the vote and bring peace to the world for the next 7,000 years.
worldwide. This is a worldwide thing.
Yeah, this isn't about the United States figuring out grammar correct. This is about the world. That's why my website's written in 150 languages with 5 billion people. That's 90% of all known computers on planet Earth already logged on. So the world, this is a world problem, grammar. You can't have one country correct when the other 99 countries are out to lunch. So the whole world is learning how to be correct. And we're here to straighten out the contracts on the grammar, because no one ever went to war over a math problem in the history of mankind. So we're bringing this communication skills, constitutions, trade agreements, banking, all down to correct grammar.
Military.
That when you break the law, I shouldn't say break the law, because that's a pronoun.
In the violation of the law.
No, for the performance of being correct. When you perform correctness, then you will always be a free person. It's when you stop being correct.
Harm others.
And you do it with knowledge. And we can prove that you did it with knowledge, then you belong blocked up, or you belong time out. Just like our children as they're learning. We set them down, we don't beat them up, torture them. We make them stand in the corner. We make them sit down where they can't be productive and play. And we give them a time out. You get too many points on your driver's license, you get time out, and you got to walk. And the reason for thinking is to abolish thinking. And it takes thinking to put one foot in front of the other, where if you get to drive a car, you get to do things a lot more relaxed. And you get to travel, and you expect these freedoms. But at the same time that people want freedoms, they're
accountability is higher.
Yeah, you have to perform for this planet. And we're here to, our promises is to bring in the Nikola Tesla coils to clean up, produce all free electricity.
Yes.
The coils will produce 10 times more electricity than we need. So all the damage that's been done to our ozone and our air, we can build super air cleaners, which will go in and take the poison out of the air, carbon dioxide, and the pollutions, and the oil, the petroleums. And we can support a planet with 100 billion people with unlimited food, 24-hour-a-day lighting for the entire planet, clean up all the oceans, all done with free electricity. And I understand the physics of electricity. I built my first laser when I was 12, my first perpetual motion motor when I was 16. And it does exist, perpetual motion.
For sure.
You have to understand magnetism and the physics that go into magnetism. But Earth is bathed in 44,000 cycles per second, electromagnetic pulse from the sun. Electricity flows at half the speed of light, 95,000 miles per second, at our position in the Milky Way galaxy from the black hole. Electricity moves here at 95,000 miles per second. As you get closer or further away from the black hole, those numbers change, but we're not there yet in our history.
Not yet.
So we're dealing with a number of 95,000 divided by 44,000, which gives you a length of wire. And one winding of that wire will harness the free electromagnetic pulse from the sun and turn it into electricity with no moving parts. A single coil that's 1 mile in diameter will supply 160 million people of all energy that they need, including transportation. Now we can build small ones, maybe the size of this room, 30 feet in diameter. We can build them 6 feet in diameter, produces about 250,000 watts of electricity. You can set those on top of every wood telephone pole in America. They're easy to manufacture, put on a truck, move out, lift on a crane, put on top of the telephone pole, and plug in. You can mass produce them like we're mass producing cars. And it's just a length of wire that's been harnessed, step down transformer with a full wave rectifier, plug into the mainframe, and you got free electricity on the mainframe.
All the LFs.
Now you have to be 7 to 1 away from planet Earth, because Earth is a energy field, static electricity. Lightning strikes Earth at 2,300 times per second. And each bolt of lightning is rated between 20 and 50,000 billion watts of electricity just discharged as static. But these coils will go ahead, because they're on wood, there's no interference. It's 7 to 1. So if you got a 6-foot coil times 7 is 42 feet, which is how tall a wood telephone pole is. And you can throw those up all over your cities. Doesn't interfere with anything. Easy to make, easy to install. Produce hundreds of thousands of jobs in the United States, paying top dollar. We don't have to do any hydrocarbon. Those that aren't going to be used for electricity, we can put generators on top that will remove all the air pollutions from static electricity, which is simply filter the air.
Yeah, just clean it up.
And we can put those off all over the planet Earth and all the cities. And then within a couple of years, have the entire planet clean as a whistle, all the water clean as a whistle. Supply all the food you need with 24-hour-a-day lighting with plant lighting, which will be powered by these electromagnetic fields.
Just gotta go that way.
Yeah.
When is that happening? Last time I checked, I saw the map of the United States and all their power plants. They're either were in yellow or state. But when are those getting decommissioned?
Well, the nuclear reactors, nuclear energy is out the window. You know, Russia, after Fukushima took place, Japan lost all 52 reactors. Were shut down, and then no one will sell them fuel because all the reactors
What's
are
happening
damaged.
with ones that are here in the United States?
They need to be
All need to be decommissioned, and one Nikola Tesla coil as big as this room will put out more electricity than a nuclear power plant.
Is there a timeline on that?
Vote us in.
Well, you know, it's 7 to
We're
1.
fast.
If you want to use big ones for industry, you just build yourself a styrofoam float. Put the coil on top of the styrofoam. Floats on the water. Lake Michigan's 1,000 feet deep. That would supply Chicago. You can put one right off of here, run all to San Francisco, couple off of LA. You got 3,000 feet of water out there. Put one coil or half dozen coils. You run the whole entire LA basin with that. When it comes to like Denver, you can either build a whole bunch of little towers, along the 7 to 1 ratio away from planet Earth. It's the things up on it. Nikola Tesla built one in Denver back in 1906. So the energy question is solved. The contract question is solved. International trade with quantum language is solved. Unemployment is 0 because energy is free. And then when it comes to battery, you have your lithium batteries for your cell phones, lithium batteries, and the lithium in Colombia, they want to see how deep the salt went in the salt flats of Colombia. They found out they have 25 square miles of pure lithium deposit, 45 feet deep, enough to build 300 billion electric automobiles. That'll keep us going for the next 300 years if you made the whole world go to electric cars. Now, you have Tesla, which is leader in battery technology. Yeah, those Tesla cars are pretty nice. I just came from the Chicago International Auto Show. I went over to Tesla here in Los Angeles County, and I took a tour of the plant. He says, "Well, how come you guys ain't putting 1% thorium with your lithium?" I says, 1% thorium will give you 8 times the energy for the same weight and size of the battery. He says, "You never looked at that." I says, "Yeah, you just build a lithium fluoride battery and you'll get 1,600 miles to a charge, and it only takes 4 minutes to charge a battery with lithium fluoride. The trouble is that fluoride is radioactive, so you have to figure out some way to
Condense that down.
buffer that down.
What's JP Morgan going to say about that?
Can't plug it in anywhere."
That's right.
So,
there's like some oil
we only
companies that
do
would be
grammar. We get into science and technologies. Being a president, being a director is about solving the needs of the people, the energy, getting down to the base of all things. When you correct the base, all the sciences that are built on the base can expand from there. When it comes to medicine, we do a program on medicine. The frequency zapper, I control all 3,800 frequencies of all known diseases on planet Earth. I have a frequency zapper that goes from 0 to 100 million cycles per second and can pinpoint a DNA crystalline of anything on the planet. And it can go in there and touch only that one DNA crystal. And I have anywhere from 5 to 8 different frequencies on the sine wave. Now, a sine wave, you have a sine wave that goes like this. And you have a sine wave that goes like this. And you have another sine wave that goes like this. So each one of these sine waves, yeah, okay, let's split them. It comes through the bottom. That goes through that, through that. That's a higher frequency. The point is that any one of these sine waves will break a specific location in that DNA crystalline, which has 3 billion codes in it. Now, all DNA crystalline, half of the code, which is 1.5 billion, are the same in every cell of every human being on planet Earth. It doesn't matter what color you are, or where you were born, what you eat, or what you drink. So you got 1.5 billion variables. Some are cancerous, some are healthy. When you go ahead and you can identify whatever specific you have and you know the frequency, you can dial that in. What happens when you break the crystal on your car computer? Car stops. Mass airflow sensor shuts it all down. And that's only just a crack in the circuit board. Same thing is true with the DNA crystalline. When you change its condition and you shut it down, it can't talk to the chromosome. The chromosome now can't tell the cell what to do. Whether it's a cancer cell or a healthy cell, can't tell it what to do. It can't eat, so it dies of old age. Natural phenomena. Everything dies of old age. So by identifying the computer and shutting down the computer of only that frequency, it doesn't affect any other frequencies in your mind. 30 kilohertz, that's 30,000 cycles per second. And the wave looks like this. It's a square wave. That's how it works. It's not a sine wave, it's a square. So you're going to be measuring different squares within the squares as you change frequencies to break a DNA crystalline. As you know, you have your computers in your things. You have your flash drives. This wristwatch runs on a piezoelectric crystal. The battery causes a coil to vibrate at 200,000 cycles per second, which hits a little silicon crystal inside, quartz crystal. That crystal generates electricity to power the coil, charges the battery, and runs the watch. It's 10 years now, and it's still just as full power. And its light comes on just as bright at night, or if I'm in a cave, I can turn it on, I can light the whole cave up, just my wristwatch. So the energy of the crystalline is very unique. And so understanding how to use crystalline, how to use frequency to control all the cells in your body, which are still, your crystalline is your computer of every single cell. Even though it's 1/10,000,000th of a size, it's still the secrets to everything. Every disease that they come up with, you just need to know what the crystalline is of that disease, and you can frequency the body and purge 100% of it out in 6 minutes. That's all it takes, 6 minutes. So we have a medical program, we have a math program, we've got grammar program, we've got magnetism, electricity. We've got all these different programs covered as a director, and people to be assigned to those to fix them. But if you can cure somebody with a 9-volt battery and a computer no bigger than a book of matches, why would you go get a $100,000 chemo thing done?
Right.
And it only costs $16 to buy it and a penny to use it.
It's a racket.
That's what makes us dangerous in one position and great for 99% of the population. Yes.
This stuff you're talking about, that would be acceptable by the public. Why do you have to be president to put these things in? Why don't these companies
This
just...
already exists.
But
The
why
point
are-
is that when a president stands up and makes a statement, the world listens.
So people are shutting it down because they don't
Being
want it.
desensitized towards it. You know, it's desensitizing and masking it from the people. As a president director, then we can stand up and say, people, here's a solution over here. We don't need to do this over here. Cuts the overhead back upon the taxes, plus our global we have a flat tax of 10% on consumption across the board, not on what you make, but on what you buy. And so upon that flat tax consumption protocol, now the values that the people were having to pay out to pay for the health care programs to supplement society and take the people that maybe are less fortunate and don't know how to. Now we bring the awareness to say, if you go to this location, these are the tools that you will get, and you get to have some autonomy for yourself, some self-governance. So we want to create that self-governance to the people and allow the people to make the choices on how they want to cheer themselves up and take the burden off of the public for their employees.
That take government down.
Yeah, and that's how you do it. So
Right.
it's a very good question, but these are the solutions that we're looking at. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I have a question about the DNA crystalline on the disease on the zapper.
Yeah.
Would that also work like for activating DNA? Let's say you lost some hearing, could you regenerate the hairs on the inside of your eardrum? Could you activate it? Could it? I mean,
Okay.
one thing is getting rid of disease,
The
but
machine,
could you-
okay, the machine you need is this one.
We need the quantum crystals for that.
Called a DICOM machine. There's 150 countries manufacturing. It was invented in Russia for the astronauts. The DICOM machine is a frequency machine, runs on much like the Nikola Tesla, which went to the Rife technology, which was Hulda Clark's A Cure for All Diseases, Oceanside, California. Then the DICOM machine was invented for the astronauts to go in and read every single crystalline of the human body through your nervous system, because the brain control is connected to every nerve in the body, or every cell of the body is controlled. That's why I can touch you anywhere on your body with the head of a pin, and you're going to feel it because your nervous system talks to that nerve, tells it how to reproduce. So the DICOM machine goes in and reads your DNA crystalline. Now, people grow until they're 25. At the age of 25, you start dying until you get to a location where you're in geriatrics and your body can't reproduce itself anymore. What the DICOM machine does is it goes into your DNA and reprograms your DNA at the age of 25. Then it goes ahead and you're with the DNA reprogrammed, but you only can do it at about 5 to 10% each time you use the machine to talk and reprogram the DNA crystalline. So it's talking to the chromosome and improving the chromosomes programming of how the cell eats, how it reproduces, how healthy it's going to be when it does reproduce. So each time you use it, you get better and better and better. Now, as a man 65 years old, I don't look 65. Most people think I'm about 40 years old. And most people that meet me the first time think I'm 40. And they hear me talk, and they're going like, I don't know if I can believe this from you. You're too young to know what you're talking about. And this is from the judges who meet me for the first time. And then they find out I'm 65 years old, and they just sit up and go, now it makes sense. Now you've got 35 years of background in this. So I know that you know what you're talking about. But the DICOM machine, you can get on the internet, type in that word, and it'll take you to the information you need to study. So I'll leave it at that. Now, the next thing I want to go over with you guys is going to be flags, which is venue, jurisdiction. Jurisdiction is an opinion. So we're going to talk about the venue. Now, you have all your state flags. You go into the courtroom, and the state flags are always going to have a spear on top, and they're going to have yellow fringe around their flags. And
When did that start? Why?
in 1969, they put a man on the moon. What moon it was, with 38 different shadows, I don't know. But and don't worry about the microphone coming down into the scene by accident, or when you step off the ladder into all that nice fine moon powder. Don't worry about that. Your thrusters that just came down and blasted it. They showed a thing coming down, blasting everything away. I don't know how you got flour on the ground after the retro rockets blasted everything away as it stopped itself. But I don't know about you, but I think if you blow a pile of flour off on the ground with an air hose, and that's going to be pretty clean, you know.
Let alone all the anti-gravity, where's all the matter floating?
Yeah.
Don't want to use too much common sense.
I mean, it's just, you know, when they showed those pictures and that, I'm going like, just a retro rocket alone is a giveaway. And then walking around with all the pictures they gave us with all the different shadows pointing in different directions because all the
Yeah.
38 different camera shots above. That's not going to be said. So when you see your state flag, you got yellow fringe, you got a spear on top, making it a military court-martial for at state level, except you guys are civilians. And then you have a federal flag. The court that you go out, walk into a state court, and they've got this flag up here, and half of the courts have now taken down the yellow fringe
Yeah,
because of our program. And they say, well, if we're a foreign vessel in dry dock, we don't have to put that on there. Now the port authorities control all vessels in dry dock, well, the courthouse. Okay, and because the courthouse is a vessel in dry dock, it's under the port authorities, controlled by the DOT, Department of Transportation, which is controlled by the post office, which prints the money and pays the judges through the port authorities as vessels in dry dock.
That's why we file our ship's papers with the Port Authority for the heads of your territories.
You should see some of the things we've done with the Coast Guard around Lake Michigan and San Francisco and LA and South Carolina, Tampa, Florida, New Orleans. They go into the Coast Guard stations and they're bringing in all their officers and calling in people from home. We got some judges here. They got sea passes and sea treaties and drug laws, and we don't have any of our paperwork in order. Well, how much trouble are we in?
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we usually spend 3 or 4 hours at these stations educating, putting on seminars for the crews. But we're just, we're educating them. Now, on top of the flagpole, you always see the yellow chicken or the yellow phoenix. Well, here's a dollar bill. On the back of the bill, you notice the wings are up. That's postal. That's a postal eagle when they're up. If the wings are down, it's a phoenix for the Vatican banking. So if you're in a courthouse or courtroom and you've got a Catholic judge who's doing Vatican banking, he's going to have the wings down. And if they're under a postal guise, they might be an atheist, then they're going to use postal law. And by the way, when it says on the back of the money here, it says, "In God we trust." Well, in is an adverb making God a verb. We is an adverb making trust a verb. You want to show me the trust verb and the God verb in the dictionary? And then you have the box around both sides of the money. Now the new Treasury notes that have been published on the 6th of January 2013 haven't been released yet to the public. But on March 1st, 1997, I sued the United States Treasury and they took the boxes off. That's why your 5s, 10s, 20s, 50s have a circle, because there's no box in the money. So what we're doing in boxing, when you see traffic tickets and boxes, you can pull out the money and say, how come the box is here and the box isn't there? This is illegal. And then I was counsel for Bill Clinton for the sex trial. That was mine. See, first I corrected the money March 1st. Then he apologized on July 4th to the Hawaiians for stealing the Hawaiian Islands. And then in August, he got himself in trouble. And the first person he called was me going, what am I going to do? He says, well, it depends on what the definition of is. And from that, he turned to the judge on CNN in front of 2 billion people and said, I just showed the American people a verb is and a noun is. Would you like me to show them another verb and another noun? That's a direct quote. Now the judge stands up. He's got 4 bars on his sleeve. He's a maritime judge. He says, there'll be no further questions, Mr. President. This court stands adjourned. So then Bill says, wow, that worked really good, Dave. I got to go in front of Congress, and I can't take any lawyers with me behind closed doors. And I don't want to talk about this. This is embarrassing, He says, well, you remember the movie A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Jack Nicholson? Jack Nicholson won the Oscar for Best Actor, and the movie won Best Picture. Mm-hmm. Well, you want the truth? I'll tell you the truth, but you can't handle the truth. You're going to repeat that same phrase to the people. Then you're going to say to Congress, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take you back to being 10 years old today, before we get started here. And I'm going to tell you the truth. He says, on the dollar bill here, we have a box. Anything in a box is in a closed area and can't be considered. We have the preposition of in the article the, but we separated them. When you separate them, they're both adverbs. Look any dictionary, any language worldwide. It's in the Styles Manual too. So now the is an adverb, modifies united to be an adjective. UN means now, ite is citizen, ed is in past time. Then you have a state, which has been modified by an adjective, so the state is a pronoun. PRO means no, NO means no, and UN means no. Then you have the word of. Of is an adverb, ADV, of all two consonants. Means no contract, and it's connected to the pronoun in front of it. But then it modifies. And modification is change, and change is motion, and motion is action, and action is verb. America is a dangling participle verb. Now the parsing of America, A means no, M-E-R-I is Latin for mercy, and C-A is Latin for sheep, no mercy for the sheep. We fleece the sheep, we don't kill them, called taxation. Welcome to America. Now you know the rest of the story.
Well, here's a true story to go with
Oh, wait,
that.
one more.
Yeah.
Then he says, in 2 weeks I have to address the union, and I have to tell the world that America is a verb on the money and disqualify all U.S. currency worldwide, which 150 countries depend on. Or we can seal my case. All those in favor of sealing the case, raise your hand. 102 hands goes up, and he walks out. Doesn't say boo. Post office is notified. Central Post Office, Bern, Switzerland. You are not talk about Bill Clinton's indiscretion, ever. The whole world goes flat. North Korea is not allowed to talk. Afghanistan's not allowed to talk. Pakistan's not allowed to talk. Turkey, Iran, Iraq. All of the people, Russia, China, nobody's allowed to make fun of the US dollar or talk about Bill Clinton's indiscretion. To keep the facts sealed, because every country on the planet uses adverbs to identify. When I was in Canada, I wrote this on the board. This is a long dash. It's connected. This is a long dash. It's connected with A and D. So that makes this a long dash. And I had 2 Treasury agents in the audience, 72 people in the audience. So this is CA, means sheep, just like CA in America means sheep. Both of them stood up, put me in handcuffs, and took me to the airport, put me on the first plane back to Milwaukee. And they pulled my visa for Canada, and I haven't been back in 12 years. So in retaliation, I grabbed the Magna Carta and I syntaxed it, put it up on the internet, syntaxed an adverb verb, and sold it 2 weeks later at Christie's in London for $6.7 million. Then she went ahead and she went after me for Australia because I disqualified the courts in New Zealand and Australia, and they appointed me a federal judge in New South Wales, which then I prosecuted. I was a federal land court judge and a full barrister appointed by Queen Elizabeth. So I do have a barristership. And they, so I prosecuted 129 judges between New Zealand and Australia for fraud against the people in the Aborigines, not Aborigine, but Origines. And then did a radio show for 2 hours on a country western station, and all 3,850 Aborigine tribes in the Australian went ahead and changed all their names and all their treaties to Aborigine, not Aborigine. And then they all sued the courts to use the correct parsing syntax grammar. They went trespass on a foreign vessel and dry dock and shut the courts down. The Australian government then called State Department and said, "What are we going to do with this guy? We got no way to stop him. He's right about everything he's saying. Don't you need a visa to be in your country? Yeah, we'll pull his visa." They pulled my visa, shipped me back to America, and I haven't been back since. So in retaliation, I syntaxed the United Kingdom's Constitution and posted that up on the internet. 2 days later, I wrote the Constitution for the Ireland, and Ireland got Parliament voted on it. 2 days after that, it was sent to the Parliament of England. England voted on it and gave Ireland their independence in August of 2012 for the first time in 660 years of war ended. Now the Irish have gone to copy the same constitution and sued Parliament of England for their independence. And then Queen Elizabeth, 2 days after that was approved, got up on BBC and announced that all the United Kingdom constitutions worldwide for Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, the islands, Hong Kong were null and void. So we disqualified their constitutions worldwide because of adverb verb. Then I took the U.S. Constitution. We did that way back in 1999. We syntaxed that. But Obama sold the United States Constitution at auction in New York City in November of 2012 because it's an adverb verb document that says nothing. It's just a historical piece of paper, and there is no constitutional rights. You have the right, the word constitution means contract. So if your contract is written with the correct parsing, syntax, grammar, that is the law, rule, regulation, and codes of a piece of paper that brought you to the court between two people. When you sue in the United States District Court, United means no citizen. District, DIS, means demon god of the underworld for trickery in a closed area called court. So if you want to go into the United States District Court, you're going to be tricked, and as long as you babble, you're going to be a victim. Now, what's the only thing that the judge has in front of him when you're in either a state or federal court? Your body. If you walk in there with an adverb contract, your contract is null and void. The Constitution that you're claiming you have rights for are written in nothing. So just straight lines and curved line called art. So now you have a situation where you're a vessel that's trespassed on a foreign vessel in dry dock. Because you trespassed on a foreign vessel in dry dock, the only thing that the judge can charge you with is trespassing. But how much money is it going to cost you to walk out of the trespassing charge? With forensic evidence right in front of you. It doesn't matter if you're for traffic, disorderly conduct, or anything violent.
File with your port authorities.
But if you do your paperwork and you have a quantum and you have your stamp signed, that makes you a postmaster transporting your mail vessel, and you are the mail, M-A-I-L. And because you're delivering the mail as the contract, none of the bailiffs, a bailiff is a letter carrier, but he didn't sign the stamp, he's not the postmaster, you are. The postmaster, the letter carrier works with postmasters. So when we walk in as federal judges, we deputize the bailiffs as our tip staff. And we have jurisdiction over the court because the tip staff stands on plane number one. The jury is in a jury box, but you know what's unique about a jury box? You've got this. You've got 6 people here and 6 people here, and now they're in a box. Jury box means you cannot see evidence or witnesses or cannot hear testimony. And a jury box has 2 6-petite juries, which are illegal. The jury code calls for 12 worldwide in order to have a fair trial.
Different vectors.
So whatever is said, 6 and 6 is null and void, and that's why the judge can overrule 2 6-petite juries and render his own opinion. O means no, a pin, which means to join, and ION is contract, no joining contract. The word jury, J-U, is no law, and RY is contract. So it's a no law contract because all 12 jury members have a 2nd grade reading level and babble, no matter what the decision is. Even the jury instructions are adverb, verb, fiction. So then you've got a jury box is on plane 4, talking to a witness in a witness box on plane 3. The clerk is on 2, takes the money, signs the stamps, and moves and is in charge of moving all the documents around the court. And the judge is up here on plane number 1 with a flag with either the chickens, with either the phoenix, but he's got yellow fringe. If he takes the yellow fringe off, anything on top of the flagpole cancels the jurisdiction of the flag.
Yes,
So the contract is null and void.
We were in the National Guard Army Reserve headquarters 2 days ago, and they confessed. I said, "You're flying a spire on top of your state, on top of your American flag, and top of your California flag." She goes, "I'm state and federal." I says, "No, you're not." I says, "You're martial law." She goes, "Very good." And I quoted her the Army regulations on that. She says, "You're correct." I says, "There's no state of California. That's a verb. It doesn't exist." I says, "It's contract and your ability to police it and maintain it, and the slothful, my words to her were the slothfulness of the people." She says, "They are lazy."
The reason for thinking is to abolish thinking, because thinking hurts. That's why we have punch press operators and ditch diggers, because they don't want to sit and read a book, because it hurts.
Can I ask you, speaking to, if you could speak to the 1666 Siskiyou Act with cause do you live? As in my study, it appears that that was the root cause of the civil death, the nom-de-guerre of the name. And
Nom-de-guerre of the name came in World War I, 1914.
Okay, so the Siskiyou Act, it appears as I read it created a condition of civil death.
It may have gone back there in the French, but nom-de-guerre is a French term. Okay. But it was widely published in 1914 because of the battles between Germany and France and the trench warfare, where millions of people disappeared because of bombardments. They couldn't even find the bodies. because they were so badly blown up so many times. So the word, and then the nom de guerre came in as capitalized names. And then when
So
the
they
court,
deal with people's estates.
okay, if the court sues me in capital letters, I can go down to any cemetery. Just the city of Milwaukee alone has 2,800 Miller names on tombstones in our graveyards, all capitals. So you only capitalize names on tombstones. So if they send you a capital
And
letter,
vessels.
you
Ship
go,
vessels.
and ship vessels, right. And paragraph 1 of Maritime Code says that that the name of all vessels must have a name, and the name must be capitalized. The 9 billion humans are vessels. So when they're going to that location of a vessel moving, for you to have a claim of the live life with a stamped sign under law of the flag and know your identity, then you can write your name in upper and lower case, walk into a vessel. But when you enter a vessel in dry dock, you've left your country. You must have your ship's papers. You must have your medical papers to say you are alive life and don't have any contagious diseases. As a result of putting blood or saliva on all of our claims of a life, if you try to file those, you're being prosecuted or sent through the mail for biological hazards. Now, the post office changed the laws to put a stop to what we were doing.
Is that why they don't want blood on documents?
Right, and it says
Correct.
right in every single clerk's window, any biological material paperwork will not be filed.
Okay, now
Is that
as-
why you can't
as to-
get a lick stamp anymore?
Correct. All stamps are now sticky because if you lick them, then it's a biological hazard. And if the post office is selling a lick stamp, they're saying, well, then you're supposed to use a sponge and water and making it damp. You're not allowed to. You use saliva, they can prosecute you for sending biological material through the post office.
That's crazy.
Now, Judge, some of my clients have brought some mail to me and complained that it appears to be fraud when they read 18 USC 1341 and 1342. The
Mail fraud name and mail fraud
Right.
finance through the mail.
And, so we were trying to put a word set together to deal with the mail fraud so that we didn't have
It's on
to-
my website. It's already defined in longhand.
Can the word set
VWMLC.com.
go on the mail to be returned unless it's put to a proper person?
Correct.
Correct.
No. We erase this. Leave the flag.
I mean, a proper name as
No,
defined in
no,
Black's Law?
no.
No, is that not right?
Proper's no good.
Oh, thank you.
This is no person.
Hmm.
And then you have property. No person contract. Because all property is written on real estate, no contract, ES, no Tate. This is contract, this is no.
Mhm.
And ta is, I'd have to look that one back up again. This is a no contract, no contract. So it's a no because when you brought your property, it killed the people who lived there. And this came from the issue of failing from ailing.
AI makes it 0.
Huh?
How does AI designate to?
It has two vowels.
Okay, to that.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's okay.
Okay, now,
A consonant, or a vowel, two consonants is negative. This is-
AILING means corruption from the beginning. Okay, so now they use the 5 words. Failing to state a claim. 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. And that's in future time, so therefore you have nothing. And because this is in the future, to state a claim, making claim into a verb. And you change, this is 12b6.
Yeah.
Every lawyer uses it when he doesn't know what to do, 12b6. And you take out the F. Corruption to state a claim. You're trying to collect an insurance policy. You bastardize the language and now you're corrupt to state a claim, which means now you're guilty and you owe the insurance company 4 times of your damage claim. That's how you flip it. I did that one in 1995 for Sarah Lynn in a traffic accident. She got $38,000 off the insurance company, and the judge says you will write this person a check for the car and the damages in this court or in jail for a year.
Did you end up syntaxing 18 USC 1341, 13?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
long
all
time
up there.
ago.
It's been up on the web for 15 years.
Because I'm just challenged to comprehend what that is, because what I've understood is that what the law is saying is that one fiction cannot use the post office to collect money from another fiction.
Right?
Is that what
There's
I'm
no such thing
understanding?
as fiction.
Right. So if a bill is if some money is to be collected through the post office, then does not it have to be sent to a proper name, maybe?
Correct is the word you're
lowercase?
looking for. A correct name.
A correct.
Don't use the word proper, a correct name.
Okay.
Yes,
So
and you
is
can
my
sue-
understanding on that correct?
You want to sue for a correct name performance.
Okay.
Then you have a contract.
It's like this. See this? 30-5. Numbers are nouns, people are facts. Sorry, not nouns. If you drop out the function, which is the hyphen, the transient action to make the compound fact, you lose jurisdiction of what you're trying to articulate of your facts. You lose jurisdiction of your subject matter. And so if you're not correct under fictitious conveyance of language and the title of 18, 1341, 1342 mail fraud, because there's no closure, this is how you prove it, right? Real simple.
Okay. And now when that if I was to place a word set endorsement on there that would resend the mail back to the post office, and that said the CFO of the corporation was, and the postmaster wasn't able to find, and it said no such person, what would happen with that presentment? Does that end up going back to CID or the tax department, criminal investigation?
They won't even touch it, so it's because it's just a stamp.
Well, right. I mean,
The
okay,
value
I
of
mean,
the stamp is all that's there. That's why you have $500 minimum under federal for grand theft, and others misdemeanor.
So I haven't had any challenges after we write no such person as per 18 USC.
That's because the person you're talking to has a second grade reading level.
Okay.
No is an adverb making, rather than say no such person, you can go off. No is an adverb making such to be an adjective of the word person. No can be a pronoun making such to be an adverb, now making the word person a verb, which is a fiction, so you've said nothing. If you're saying nothing about nothing, where's my crime? Then if you go to find a definition that's written in that verb, they're only suggestions, they're not laws. That's why you want to leave Earth and you want to go into a foreign vessel and dry dock where the judge makes a determination that 3 + 3 equals all numbers in the universe but 6, because you can't try a fact. But you can argue about what the shade of black is, because there's 1,200 shades of black. You know, and the law says in 1964, it's written for colored people. You see this whiteboard? This is the color white. Am I white? No, actually I'm a red man. Or a pink guy. But there is no such thing as white. Never has been. It's just there's 1,200 shades of white. There's no such thing as negative. 400 degrees below zero just means it lacks a certain amount of energy. You can't get to a negative position. A negative, you know, they look out in space and they see dark matter, where there's no light, there's nothing. And most of the universe is made up of dark matter, where there's nothing. And so wherever you have light, you have energy, reflecting off of particles of something that probably from an explosion. But if you can see anything different outside of dark matter, then that means there's particles of dust that are being reflected off of stars. So you have some form of energy present until you get into dark matter. But even dark matter has a electromagnetism as a constant, and magnetism is an energy. So therefore, you still have a positive condition.
So what we want to do in the word set is create a positive condition.
Always.
Always, you only suing for positive. We're going to get into your condition of thinking in a second. I want to finish with flags. The United States has 11 flags in its article. When Obama took office, they added another one. It was called the Treasury flag. This is 3. Our flag is 1. 1 to 1.9 or 10 to 19. A boat flag is 3 by 4. This is 3 by 4 on our flag. if you have a square, if this is a square field where this is a 4x4, then this here is going to be a 60-40, but now it's going to be a 3x5 flag. That's a military base flag. 3x4 is for boats, and 1 to 1.9 is contract flag, and 17 to 19, not 10 to 19, 17 to 19. No, 10 to 17. 10 to 17 is a military base flag, and you have patrol flags. Then you have the ball on top is for advertising the draft. That's what that's for. The spear is for court-martial. The eagle with the wings up is for the President of the United States. What pre means no, and SI is simulation, and ENT is denture, or contract. So by putting a negative condition of no in a simulation of SI, as you sign your signature. When you have an author, autograph, authorization, authentic, that's AU, it's symbol of gold on periodic table. He holds the gold, makes the rules, so you have authority. And then they've been slipping in the Phoenix on there, and the Phoenix is Vatican banking, but then Obama's flag looks like this, and it's always hung in a banner, square field 1 to 2.25 dimension. And they have to hang it in a banner because all banners suspend Constitution. I don't care what flag you're using. At the United Nations building in Washington, D.C., in New York City, you have 199 3x4 boat flags, and you have one flag that is 1 to 1.9, and that's the correct sentence structure. Communication, parse, syntax, grammar flag. It flies in the first position. That's my flag. That's copyrighted. And if you go to New York and you see that, you'll know that you're looking at a contract flag, and everybody signed it because the mathematical interface on grammar being correct is something that they all have to achieve. It just takes time to learn.
Yeah, we met with the Postal Department there at the United Nations, and they took us off to the side and wanted to meet with us, and we asked them a few questions on mechanics of postal. Of course, they didn't know anything. They says, Russell, we don't know anything. We want to be your student. You and David, you guys are the best postmasters on the planet. Everybody else is a scam. We believe you two guys. We don't believe anyone else. They said, we don't know. I says, well, under Title 42, 1986, under knowledge, you're disqualified as a corporation for moving your stamps from point A to point B around the world. He goes, I know we are. He goes, can we be your student? I says, absolutely. I says, we're here to correct. I says, I'm a student with United Nations. I'll teach you guys how to be correct because you guys aren't correct. You can't do anything for anybody. He goes, I know. It's a worldwide problem. I says, yeah, it is.
This here, City of Milwaukee, after I prosecuted Judge Stadtmiller, well, actually it was Wasilewski. They couldn't get any judges to take the case for Wasilewski. So Stadtmiller, was our chief judge at the time, said, I'll take it. I'm the chief judge. We have 92 judges here at the courthouse. And nobody can overrule me. He took the lawsuit, read it for 20 minutes, and came out and says, I recuse myself. He says, I don't think there's a judge anywhere in the United States that will take this case. 400 state judges in 7 states, Indiana, Michigan, Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Ohio, Iowa, all vacated their position to take it. They found a judge in Cleveland, Ohio, 97 years old and retired 26 years. And he took the case. I defeated him 3 times in a row. And in 52 years on the bench, he had never lost a case or had a case turned over. And he ruled in my favor and took off his robe on the 3rd defeat and threw it on the ground and says, your statute of limitations is running out, Mr. Miller. But it was the first time. Even when I wrote my first lawsuit in front of that old man, I used a 1923 typewriter with the old nylon ribbon, and the E letter was always a quarter character higher than all the rest of them because of a defect when they manufactured those machines. And he noticed that my paperwork was written on that typewriter. And he says, how did you get this thing to write in all uppercase? He says, well, the key was broke. It's a 1923 model. And he goes like, it's the one I used when I went to college. He says, and I had to write my papers on it. He says, I see the key. It's still broke, the E key. He said, how'd you get it to write lowercase? He said, I used the needle nose pliers, and I had to hold the letter up to lowercase and tap it with a screwdriver to make the lowercase spelling. After everybody got done laughing, he says, how long did it take you to write this paper? I says, 4 months. Pushing one key at a time, you know. He gave me credit for really working at it. But in the city of Milwaukee, our intake cord uses 1-inch Lexan plastic, bulletproof, soundproof. And the audience is out here. Then you have your plaintiff box here for your pleadings. The jury is in a jury box, soundproof clerk, soundproof judge, soundproof, complete, all separated, boxed and soundproofed. And then the judge is up here with switches turning on everybody who can listen and can't listen to control anybody from coming into court and making any statements that they don't want anybody to hear. So they're taking the boxing to a new stage now, putting everybody into a plexiglass soundproof box.
Wow.
So that's totally illegal.
I heard something about Obama stood on a piece of paper during his oath and separated himself from the plane, so his oath was null and void.
Correct. He did. His oath, the adverb oath that he's taken with John Roberts, is in fact a null oath. We have our own oath that we will be using, and these are the ones. This is my Hawaii. Let's see which one is this for. No, this is my California federal oath. I have this oath published in San Diego, California, in Los Angeles, San Francisco, Fresno, and it's paid my fees, got my stamps, got my seals on it, embossed seals.
I've got mine here for Kansas and Nevada, but they won't let us in. The U.S. Marshals won't let us file these anymore. They totally.
Well, the government's completely gotten ballistic on this.
Yeah.
They've been building walls around our technology to separate the fiction from the fact, and from the performance, you know, because we only come in we sue for the performance, sue for the correct grammar and the syntax. And because we do it mathematically, we can identify every piece of fraud that's put out there and tear it all apart. But in the foreign vessel in dry dock, you've actually left planet Earth and now you're on a spaceship from another planet. Same thing as any one of you go down here to the harbor in San Francisco and jump on a Chinese freighter without your passport, seaman's papers. What's the end result going to be? You're going to get harvested. You're going to get thrown in the brig, taken back to China and stuck in jail for 8 years.
Isn't that called a foreign invasion on American soil?
No, because the vessel is in water. It's not connected. The Port Authority, they paid a docking fee. Say, when you bring paper, when you take a piece of paper and you walk into the clerk's office, you walk up to the clerk and you hand her a vessel. You pay a docking fee for the vessel. They put a stamp on it and they sign it. Well, when they sign the stamp, we sign. There was
What, judges up? I got one.
no, I got this one here. When they put a stamp on it, I sign their stamp. That makes me the clerk of this court on quantum language with the fee paid front and back, and the endorsement is how you cash your check at the bank. So this is an equitable Article 1 judge. No, that's Article 3. So I get called up for jury duty in the city of Milwaukee. And they put me on a murder trial. And finally I wound up in the jury box, and the judge goes, what do you guys do for a living? So he gets to me and he says, well, I shouldn't really say anything in public, Your Honor. He says, no, he says, you'll answer like everybody else. Because, okay, I'm a federal judge on special duty. He says, well, Mr. Miller, what do you do as a federal judge? And I says, well, I prosecute judges for a living. And he was like, you can't prosecute a judge. And then he says, well, what are you, Article 3? I goes, no. Oh, no, Article 1? No. Article 2? No. Article 3? I said, well, the word article means no contract. I says, but it would be, I'm a contract judge on special duty. He says, you remember Judge Stadtmiller, right? I says, yeah. Remember the day he left? Yeah. How many judges did he take with him? 12. dad was the judge that caused that to happen. I prosecuted the judges for treason, not having an oath of office. And he was like, all right, everybody will answer questions except Judge Miller. And he started asking about guns. Everybody will answer except David Miller. He went through a whole list of about 8 different questions. He says, Mr. Miller, you don't have to answer any more questions, you know? So then finally, and catch this, for the prosecution of a criminal trial for murder, the prosecutor is my next door neighbor.
Oh,
For 8 years, conflict of interest. And he's a judge and I'm a judge, you know? And so this thing is getting really, so when it comes to the striking, they had to ask one person to leave. And everybody that wants Miller to leave, raise your hand. All the clerks, the judge, both prosecution, the defense attorneys, everybody puts their hands up. Okay, Dave, you can leave now. So now when I went back to the pool, clerk comes up to me and says, come with me, comes up to the counter, and all 5 clerks go, sign my paper, you're not legal for jury duty for the next 8 years.
So what happens when you know, somebody like myself gets a jury duty notice says,
You have to establish.
You have to establish why you are there, and if you have a duty to perform, but if you have knowledge in quantum, if you can afford the time, it would be really good for you to be on there, because you can technically control the jury as foreman by merely syntaxing.
Knowing the planes and telling the clerk.
And if you ask one question, are you going to use the correct parse, syntax, grammar in this trial, you're disqualified as a jury member for the next 6 years, just by that question. If you wore my business card into any jury room, you would be disqualified for 6 years.
Yes, sir.
Do every courtroom know this? If you would-
Yes. My picture hangs in every courtroom in the United States and Canada, so they know who I am when I walk in the door.
Federal district court.
No, of course. Even the little guys in the one-horse operations in the backwoods of Montana, and I was in a 120-year-old courtroom, a courthouse built of red brick in Washington State in the mountains. Next closest city was over 120 miles away, and there was only like 50 people lived in this county. But they had this big old courthouse there. And I pulled in, I got out of the car, and somebody yells out of the window, "There are leaders here!" and I walked into the courtroom, and there was like 30 people there for drunk driving, disorderly conduct, sitting. And the judge stands up and says, "We're going to do something different today. $20 court cost for everybody, and you're free to go. If you don't want you to fight, you can sit and we'll go through your case." Everybody got up, paid $20, because you got to have $21 to make it federal. Otherwise, $20 is a misdemeanor with nothing. Then they all walked out. Then the judge took off running out the back door and got in the car. She promised to have a meeting with me, but she left and went talk.
True story. I know the guys in the audience. We haven't seen him for some years. But
Mark,
come on, tell your story of what you witnessed to the Postmaster General of the United States Postal Service.
Oh, geez.
Because this is good. We haven't seen this guy since.
Also put him on for the
Pentagon?
no. We removed 4 Supreme Court judges,
Oh, yeah.
and he was our marshal, our tip staff.
Yeah.
Did I break anything?
Nope, you go.
Here's an interesting story.
We went to Washington, D.C., and we went to sue the IRS, alphabet crew there. And we filed our paperwork. We did everything we were supposed to do. We held trial, David and Russell, outside the, what's the courthouse?
Supreme Court.
Supreme Court, on in front of the steps. Now, of course, you're not allowed to be on the steps, because if you're on the steps, they can arrest you. So they would be sitting on the steps, and they'd be trying to,
There was 12 marshals standing on the first step.
and trying to get you to step up to a step, because if you did, then they can grab you and take you away, right? So we did all that, and it worked out really cool. It was pretty amazing, actually. It was the first time we ever did it. But then we had to file paperwork over to court, where the alphabet crew does all their, stuff that they do. So we go over as a group. There's a bunch of us. So we go over as a group, and we don't know what to expect. We just know that we were told what to do, and so we go over there and we go into the place. Now it's a rotating thing. It's like you go in the right side is where you go in, and there's a big box in the middle, and that's where the officers are that check you out first.
U.S. Marshals.
Yes. And then on the right side is where you can come out. All right. So we're all in the right side, and we're all standing there, and we're saying we need to get this paperwork into this court, and we wanted to talk to a judge, and they wouldn't do it. So we wouldn't leave because we really needed to file this paperwork. So they didn't want to file the paperwork because obviously they knew what that paperwork would do. So they eventually called down the judge. So she was in the middle of a case, and she was hearing our case, and she eventually came down. She said, what is the big ruckus down here? And we're saying, well, we have this paperwork, it needs to be filed, and we need to sign it in and everything like that. And she's like, there is no collector, tax collector. There is no tax collector. You have this wrong. You're all mistaken. There is no tax collector. She kept telling us. We said, well, we just need you to file this then, send it in, no problem. Well, this bugger here, he decides he's going to come in later. We had it all off. He's going to come in later. And so we're there about a half an hour. It was about 20 minutes to 30 minutes, a half an hour. He comes in walking half an hour later. We're sitting there arguing back and forth, just trying to discuss with this judge, trying to get the paperwork. And he comes walking in to the opposite side. And I'm not lying. It just blew my mind. As soon as he walked through the door, everybody knew who he was. Now, they had never seen him before. Nobody ever seen him before. He walked in the door. Judge Russell, how you doing? Judge, he's sitting there. We're trying to explain to these people there is no collector, right? And he's like, well, these people, I tell you what, they just so. It was amazing. It was amazing. So that was like one part where it was just mind-boggling how everybody knew who he was, and he had never been there before. So now we're down there, and he calls a thing with the Universal Postal Union, and the Postmaster General is going to be there, all right? So I said, look, I'm going to sit in the back, way in the back. I'm going to see what goes on because I do security and I do